What's going on, y'all? It's your girl, your cousin, Tanisha Peoples, live with another Talk That Real Shit with my homeboys and partners in crime, Mr. Jason B. Allen and Mr. Nehemiah Frank. And then today, y'all, we got a mashup. They calling it a versus, y'all. We got our sister Zakiya Sankara-Jabar on. So it's TDRS and it's building power. So how everybody doing today?
I'm good, sis. Good to be here with y'all.
It's Monday. I'm good. I'm happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm feeling pretty great too. Happy to be here. Lots of things did happen last week that we need to talk about. But this weekend, I mean, it was Mother's Day weekend. We gave I gave my sister-in-law a break, or future sister-in-law a break. Took her twin girls this weekend. We went to the park. They kept me up all weekend, y'all.
Oh man, everybody was babysitting this weekend and had their experiences with kids. I had a little sleepover for my godson in my house, and them kids didn't go to sleep until 4 a.m. And then I found out they were downstairs throwing water on each other and everything. But I couldn't, you can't be mad because that's what kids do. That's what we did when we were younger. Actually, I was throwing like way worse shit on my cousins. So, as long as they ain't break nothing or, break nothing in the house or break something on themselves, that's completely fine. So, I want to, shout out the mothers, say happy Mother's Day, belated Mother's Day, I guess. And also talk about the verses, y'all, since we got a verses here today, talk about the SWV verses. How many of y'all caught it? Drop it in the chat. Tell us how y'all felt about the verses last night.
This is the first one that I caught the entire one and was up dancing in my house. Like, because SWV, Sisters with Voices, is my absolute favorite R&B group. Like the 90s was just, it was it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Big shout out to the 90s. It was definitely dope. Of course, it happened here in Atlanta. And I think that everybody in the beginning was like, the energy was so off. And then to see the news, and it's like, oh, there was a shooting in Atlanta. I was like, God, I'm so ashamed. Like, this is what Keisha's saying. Like, yeah, what are you shooting for? They they shot someone like literally outside of Coco's room. And so, of course, naturally, you would be like, what? Like, you just in there singing, and it's like, oh, somebody got shot. Like, what? I'm not laughing, but it's just crazy like that. So, good thing it was in Atlanta. Bad thing the shootings happened, and, hopefully we can get that under wraps. But it was really dope.
Yeah, I mean, these shootings are just so ridiculous. Like, even I was watching the news this morning, and they go through it so fast, like, oh, this person was shot over here, this person was shot over there, and Elon Musk said that Dogecoin is trash or whatever. They just go through it like it's so it's just not a thing, And I think that when we do have these verses, these verses with particularly the old school groups for me, because like I'm an old head, like it just really gets you. It allows a break from the struggles that we're enduring. And they said that the first half was struggling a little bit. I said on Facebook, I'm like, they has to go in the back and find Coco her 90s nails so she can get in tune. But when they got her them nails and them those retro ones, she came back out swinging, baby. So I mean, I'm fans of both groups, but SWV, I mean, if we go call it a win, for me it was them. I'm just gonna say it, but yeah,
they won before got started, so don't ask me. Like, I'm just SWV all the way. Like, don't get me wrong, I grew up in the South, so I'm all the way, South music, from hip hop to R&B. So like, I rock with Escape too. It's just that SWV, Sisters with Voices, like they made the music that explain how I feel about my man. You know what I'm saying? Like, like just articulated it right. And so shout out to all the Atlanta. Hold on though, we got to talk about the DJ A1. I was like, I love him, I love his energy. Did y'all see?
Yeah. Social was going in, they tried to say he was too hype, but I mean, it was like, you gotta be back as a DJ.
That's what you're
Yeah, he
supposed
was
to
getting
do.
it.
Yeah. He was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
I'm repping my city. I'm going to keep saying it. And he played all the Atlanta hits. I was up dancing. My husband was because he ain't used to me like being like that all the time. And I'm like, this is it. Because we had the music blasting in our house. I was glad that the neighbors didn't knock on the door.
that would have been good. You should have been like, yeah, y'all should go watch it too. It was
Right.
super lit though. The Brat went live from where they were in the audience when he was DJing, and yeah, it reminded me of old Atlanta. It felt really good. So
Yeah.
I think they both did great. I think Escape gave them a run for their money. Especially when
They
they
did
say,
in
"Do
them
you
prom
want to?" I
dresses.
was like, "Lord have mercy." I didn't know if it was a church song. I don't know what was happening. I was feeling a lot in that moment with that song, but
Yeah.
it was good.
Yeah. Escape killed it. They held on their prom and masquerade dresses. You know, they was like out there ready. They was out there ready for it. So yeah, they did great. But shout out to all the 90s groups, the R&B that, you know, really gives us nostalgia as Black people. And again, it's something that we absolutely need in these just tumultuous times because baby, listen, I wanted to have this particular conversation and we can get into it. This episode name is Are We Tired Yet? You know, and for the past couple of weeks, like I've been going off, y'all, specifically around this critical race theory and you know, blocking these conversations, anything related to it. And honestly, just frustrated because I'm wondering, like, Black people, like where we at? Are we seeing these assaults? You know, how many more times do we gotta be violated by this country before we be like, you know what, fuck y'all, like we about to like pop off or, you know, build our own. And so it's just like that's kind of what I want to get into today. And I think, you know, Zakiya is key to this conversation because I think that, you know, when we have a conversation about building power, we have to start with the root issues, right? And that building power starts from the ground up. And so, you know, Zakiya is definitely a key piece to this conversation. And y'all, let's just get into it. Like, what's happening? Because, you know, we got these conversations about police brutality and them murdering us, but then there's this assault on education. There's this healthcare assault or health wellness assault. Like we being hit on all ends. And it's just like, we just, you know, we trying to take it, but I don't know if we necessarily fighting back. Like, so how do y'all feel about everything that all the shit that we going through?
You know, I really appreciate this. And yes, you have been going off. I have been loving every minute of it. Your Hope and Outrage has just been giving me life. I've been sharing it every place that I can to encourage people to read and to like really also get into their righteous indignation, to get into their righteous outrage. But let me just tell you, and you probably noticed from when you first met me, Tanisha, I already been on the we need to create our own train. Listen, I've been done. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, like we need our own schools. And I know like it's cliche and like people like, oh, here we go with this Black stuff again. You know, sometimes we get like that. But I think like in this last year with a mix of COVID and the onslaught, because the police been killing us, but just the onslaught back to back. You know what I'm saying? The police ain't even stopped after George Floyd. I mean, you know, they just not gonna stop. So like just, I think more people, their consciousness has just been like, well, maybe them people that's talking about that all that Black stuff might have something to it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So
right.
It's like, let me get in with my family, you know what I'm saying? That be on all that Black stuff all the time and see how we can build some power. But yeah, right. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Right.
Well, y'all know the governor in Oklahoma, he didn't sign the damn bill, 1775. And you know, y'all, let me tell you, we were texting over the weekend. Y'all know I was just outraged. And I've been upset over a lot of things. I was upset when the governor signed the anti-protesting bill where motorists could mow down pedestrians if they feel that their lives are in danger. But there was just something about this particular bill because it deals with our kids. It deals with the fact that teaching Black history to white children is one of the only ways that we can build empathy for white children to have empathy for our own damn kids. So when they grow up, they're not shooting us, right? Or incarcerating us or giving us unfair sentences. So I was I was boiling when he signed that bill. Just boiling.
Yeah.
Not
Can I ask you, Nehemiah, where is the Black community sort of on this issue in Oklahoma? That's what I'm interested in. Like the Black elected officials. I'm sure y'all have Black elected officials in the state house and Senate and all of that. Where is our NAACP? You know what I'm saying? Like, where is the Black community in Oklahoma?
Urban League.
What did they do? What did they say? Like, what's going on?
right. So we're all pushing back, right? We shut down highways like everybody else did last year. We've been calling for Governor Stitt, for the mayor of Tulsa, and for James Langford to be booted off of the commission, the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Commission. Now, Kevin Matthews says that the commission is dissolving. But at the same time, it's like, can you at least show some damn force before you, like, that commission is literally the only way that we can hold white officials accountable, right? Conservative Republican officials accountable in that state, because they didn't burnt out all the Black towns. They didn't lynched us. They literally pushed Black people out of that state to where they have zero political power. Every single Black elected official spoke against this House bill last week. It was in the New York Times. It was everywhere. A lot of the press across the country were talking about it. Now this did a video about it. Nevertheless, he still signed it. Even the commission, the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Commission itself said, Governor Stitt, even though you're on our commission, we would like you to veto this bill. And what did he do? He didn't listen to that, because Black people have zero political power in Oklahoma, and those white people, they know that.
But let me ask y'all this question, given that fact and just, the reality of this country, period. Is it truly possible for Black people to experience liberation and equality in this system where we are, honestly, politically outnumbered and just foundationally built on a system of racism and oppression? Is it possible for us to escape these systems that's the country? Is it possible?
I don't think that it's impossible to escape, the system. And I'm sure Jason will push back on me a little bit. But, Black hubs, I feel like they're safer spaces for Black people. I went to the dentist, and we didn't been through this before. Y'all went to the dentist's office. The nurse was Black. The dentist was Black.
And your teeth look good.
Thank you. And we had a whole conversation when I was sitting in her chair. Like, everybody in the room, that was the first time I had experienced that my eye doctor is Black. My optometrist is Black. My primary care, like, I've never experienced that in my life. And, since our relocation, our skin is radiant, And then when I go back home, it's like, oh my gosh, I feel like it's a hostile environment because there's just not enough Black people. And I know the history of how they got all the Black people out of there. So it's mind-boggling. But, to answer your question, I'm with Zakiya. I am not. We have to have our own. And it's not about being separatist. It's not about reverse racism, whatever that means. It's just about making sure that we are whole and that we can take care of ourselves, and that, our kids can grow up in an environment where they don't have to worry about, being taught half-truths.
I also think it's important to your point. This may ruffle some feathers, but I think that we have to be willing to acknowledge some truths to get to where we think we need to go.
Yeah.
And Black people are an internal colony in the United States. We are completely colonized, and we really don't have actual real political power when I say like to move an actual Black agenda. There's political power as in voting power in certain places where there's Black people can move an election. That's real. But we move in an election for not a Black agenda, like for everybody else. You know what I'm saying? That's the issue. And then finally, I think that we have to be willing to look at Pan-Africanism, meaning that we need to join hands with Black people worldwide. Malcolm X showed us that. That's not talked about as much about his legacy, but his whole idea of going to the United Nations and also going over to Africa plenty of times and visiting and like, you know, talking with heads of state during that time. Like, he was literally on linking the Black struggle globally. And to me, that's where I think that us as organizers, because we're running into complete like roadblocks all the time, trying to keep everything within the United States. And I'm not saying that we abandon our struggle here. In fact, it's going to enhance our struggle. You know, if joining forces with Black folks in Brazil, which has the most Africans outside of the continent, despite popular belief, you know what I'm saying? So because we are a minority and we're so colonized, we have to join with other oppressed Africans and Black folks the world over. To me, I think that is something that we need to continue to talk about more and start, especially in this age of social media. If Marcus Garvey could organize 5 million Black folks back when it was hardly even TV and most Black people didn't even have a phone at home, come on, y'all.
Right.
Come on.
Zakiya, I want to add on what you talk about. And so let's just say, like, we have these 4 languages, right? We have Spanish that we're learning, we have French, we have German, right? All of these like European colonizing languages. And I mean, Portuguese is a colonizing language as well, but we should be teaching our kids Portuguese so we can make those connections. You know what I mean? Teaching them how to read it. Like, we need to be doing things that benefit us.
But if I can jump in, because I think that part of this piece, and talking about the root issues of, I guess not necessarily lack of pushback, but whatever. So I was listening to A Black Hands last night, and they had this brother on who had this program in the Umoja program in Berkeley, California. And he was talking about how he did the trip to Ghana for the year to return, right? And so it made me think about how this very calculated effort that we see now from the government and from elected officials to disconnect us from our ancestry and from history. And so we talk about that unity, that Pan-African unity, and that just connection to history and ancestry, period, that is one of the issues or one of the tactics that they're using to keep us disempowered, because as long as we don't have that connection, we don't know where we come from, we don't know what to do presently, and we don't know how to build for the future. And so that's something that, I've been thinking about, and how do we really connect our kids to that history, and for ourselves connected, because we didn't learn that in school, and so when we talk about these assaults on Black people, like, I want people to really pay attention to these constant assaults on education, particularly this effort to suppress Black history and whitewash American history in schools, because it's an empowerment tool that they don't want us to have access to. And so that just made me think about it when y'all were having that conversation about, connections to other, like, to other groups, other communities, to other countries. All that stuff is like, they don't want us to have that.
Right. You think they do what benefits them, and they do it unconsciously when they do this, right? Or subconsciously when they do this, because it benefits them to learn Chinese, right? Because those are our biggest traders. It benefits them to learn French, to learn a lot of these European languages. Today, you think about Portuguese. Portuguese isn't like Portugal is not the big power that it used to be in Europe, right? Today, it's just people be forgetting about Portugal. Nevertheless, we got all of these Black people in Brazil that are speaking this language. And so, well, why aren't Black kids or kids in America learning Portuguese? Because it doesn't benefit them. But it's showing the hell what benefit us. Just imagine, like, if we did have trading going on just within our own Black organization, right? Between Brazil and African Americans. Like, who knows how much money is there? Like, I'm like really happy that you brought that up. That was a really good point, Zakiya. And just other languages in Africa. You know,
Yeah.
we need to be we really need to be making these connections, but it doesn't benefit us. So, you know, no one's thinking about, oh, why don't we teach them Portuguese? Why don't we offer a Portuguese high school class? You know,
because that's the way, because they know we would build power that way.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Let us start talking to Black folks in Brazil and really connecting at that root level in that way, right?
Exactly.
Let us start talking to Africans, our family on the continent where our ancestors are from. Let us just start making these connections. Yeah, even Black people in Europe, they catching it too.
it is.
You know what I mean? So let us start connecting with Black people the world over. And yes, I am all for learning different languages for the purposes of building power, not necessarily about, you know, learning other colonized languages, but if we have to learn a colonized language to communicate with our people, then that's what we got to do.
Right.
But yes, learning indigenous African languages so we can communicate. And Swahili is actually a really good one. A lot of people don't know, but Swahili is spoken across a number of different countries in Africa, and it is a fusion. In fact, Zakiya is a Swahili name. I remember I go to a dentist too, and one of the assistants is an Iranian woman, and she said, "Oh, you know, your name is Arabic," and I was like, "No, it's Swahili." She said, "No, it's Arabic," and I had to explain to her that Swahili is a fusion language that includes some Arabic and indigenous African languages. And she was like, "Oh, okay." You know, like, because a lot of people don't know that, but that's so that people can communicate across the different countries in Africa because of all of the, because, you know, there was a slave trade that happened before the European slave trade. And so that's how you have a lot of Africans who speak Arabic. So yes, it's all about the purposes of building power. We have to expand our thinking, not just building power here in the United States, but building power across the diaspora.
Zakiya, girl, we're gonna have a whole conversation outside. Let me tell y'all, this woman is speaking the truth. Right? So listen, there was a Arabic slave trade that took place before the Europeans came. And in fact, it was so aggressive that there are actually Black towns throughout the Middle East, or like Black towns. And I was like, the first time I had learned about this, I was like, really? And so I went and did some research and found all these images of like, and they look just like us, y'all. I'm just like, damn.
Wait a minute.
That's our power. That's our power. I'm telling y'all.
Wait a minute though, Jay. Where you quiet today? Let me find out you up there asleep with your eyes open.
I'm not. I was trying to find a break, and I said, "Well, I'll just take notes." And I was, you know, I like history stuff, so I was just listening. But
come on in here.
I mean, you know, to chime in, I would definitely start with this public service announcement about the National Parents Union. They just sent their boxes out, and this is amazing. And so, you know, any shows that I'm doing now, you'll definitely see this. So shout out to them. It's definitely keeping my ward in a great place. I just wanted to put that public service announcement out there for people to check out their work. And, you know, a lot of the points that Zakiya, all of you all were making, you know, it goes back to this book that I'm reading. I want to bring the spiritual side to it. The book your church does not want you to read. And it's so important because it's written by a Black author. And it coincides with this. Now, I'm going to show y'all this because this is probably going to be worth some money one day. But these are cassette tapes of American Gods. And, you know, I've talked about this show that comes on Stars, you know, based off of this book. But I actually had a cassette tape. So I just wanted y'all to know how much of a nerd I really am. And, you know, it discusses the importance of Africa and everything. You know, if you look at the center of America and how far it is from the actual center of Africa. And you do that with Europe, right? And you do this with other world powers. It talks about the influence that Africa has always had. I'm mentioning this because I've checked out a lot of Zakiya shows. You know, I'm subscribed to the Black Wall Street Times. You know, I follow Tanisha's work, our network of Bright Beam, all of the activists that are lifting our voices around conversations that are age old. And we're not tired yet. We should be exhausted. This is I'm reflecting on this spiritually because I'm thinking about when we say rest in peace and rest in power and how impactful that is because we deserve to rest in power and in peace because we spend so much of our lives trying to liberate the minds of our people. Black people, we lost our fight. We lost our fight. That's why we still are in this same situation. All these children, all of these children, all these children. I can't even stop saying it. All of the children, I can't even get to George Floyd. I can't even get to Breonna Taylor. All of the children, y'all, that are dying in front of us every day. We turn on the news, right? Like we're not tired yet. Black men, black fathers ain't tired enough to say, forget going to work. What am I going to work for if they killing my kids while I'm out trying to provide for my family? Whether it's a blended family, you with your wife, you have 4 baby mamas, it doesn't matter. They killing our kids. Black men, what we doing? Then we say, oh, we don't. Black women we giving them too much praise. Like it's crazy. We're conditioned to do this. But I'm gonna end with this. We want to say we so buck and we so lit. But black people, black and brown people, we are more willing to fight ourselves because it's easier to attack the underdog that everybody is fighting instead of fighting everything else that's coming against you. And that's what black people and brown people are in this world. Everybody is attacking us. So instead of us saying, let's come together, and even if we're going to lose, at least we're going to get some of them. I'm sorry to even sound like that, but at least that would be the thought. But no, we don't. We'll say, oh, you know what? It's better for me to just go on a rampage and shoot up, Nene and them block. And now 3 kids died, but it don't matter because everybody, they fear me now. Like, why we do that to ourselves? So it's the mindset. We can't liberate our minds because we ain't really about that life.
You're saying
people don't want to fight.
Yeah,
we all want to fight. Look at the Democrats. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, we've talked about this before. The DA, this shirt, Justice for Georgia, these mothers and fathers that have lost their kids, grandparents, students went out, right? My students talked about this. They went out here all these months advocating for black people, black Democrats, black liberators to come out here and do something different. And what did they do? They went right with the system because that's the business that pays us. And we don't want to invest in black. We don't want to start our own. We don't want to get behind the people that are really doing it, but let them come out and murder one of us. Then we gonna be on this wall celebrating. Oh, they gave their life. No, y'all, these people ain't giving their lives just for nothing. That's that condition of Christianity, because the reality is the book the church don't want you to know is that it could have been another way.
Well, Nat Turner was trying to tell them
Christianity that came from Africa. And how it was a sacrifice for something. And when we sacrifice it, we're doing it together. But we don't know that because the only thing we know is that grandma and them were running around and saying shabba dabba doo. And the preacher came up and gave a good word. And all the money that we worked for the whole week went to this church. And they got a wagon and a horse. And they got groceries. And we sitting here at the table begging, saying, somebody please feed me. But anyway, neither here nor there. When black people ready to fight, I'm ready, but I don't think we're ready.
And that's what I want this conversation to be about, because I think that, to be politically correct or considerate of, all this shit that we skirt around these issues when we, as organizers, like, yeah, we go fight for our people, but we got to be, unapologetic enough to tell the truth about where the fuck we falling short, and so I think that, we keep it real over here. And that's what I want to get into. Like, where are the holes or the gaps or the miscommunications internally within the black community that's not connecting the dots between, they fucking with us and we need to fight. Like, how is this complacency? Like, how does this complacency live?
I mean,
when there's so much when we being killed and assaulted every day, how does it live?
I mean, this is where it lives at, okay? Before integration, before our schools were integrated, I say it all the time, and I'm not a separatist. I went to a PWI. You know, like, I'm just keeping it 100. Like, the second I started teaching at a Black-centered school, from learning from Black folks, like Black teachers, some of them was taught under Marva Collins, you know, like, after I learned that, I was like, oh, wow, we really do have to teach about Black history. Because you think about, like, when white kids are sitting in school, you don't even have to say the word white. They're learning their history as a racial group, because they're learning about, we all learned about the World War. We learned about everything that happened in Europe. We learned about everything that happened in this country. But, you know, from the view of, from the white perspective, right, through the white lens, we've never been taught our own history. And then when you have Black people that learn about they don't grow up racist or anything like that. They just grow up empowered, and they have a sense of value within themselves to want to be excellent, right? To want to strive to be, you know, the rock of their community, to be unapologetically a lover of all Black things, right? You have to teach that into the children, right? And then trigger something to where, you know, their curiosity takes them down a path. That's what that is. But Black kids don't get that opportunity like they used to. That is the reason why we don't, you know, see such bold activists as we used to see back in the day. You know, the second they start shooting them rubber bullets or gassing, you know, or they come out with them batons, everybody running like hell. Back in the day, shoot. I mean, we were just getting brutalized and dragged to jail. How many times did Dr. King go to jail?
But you know what, like, the interesting thing when you say that they don't get those opportunities, it's up to us to provide those opportunities at this point, because we can't wait for this country to give us shit at this point. We cannot, because clearly they've already said that not only are we not interested in investing in you, we're going to kill you. We're going to kill whatever spirit you have. We're going to kill you physically, emotionally, mentally, all that stuff. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like, we can't wait on them to provide these opportunities. And sometimes I think, like, even when I visited the Lorraine Motel where Dr. King died, I'm like, damn, is this where the dream died too? Because it honestly just felt like the movement just dipped off real nasty. And so it's like, where are the people that's willing to pick up that load and keep carrying us, you know, through these actions and through this struggle and this revolution that we need? We have to be those people, but we can't be the only ones, because Jason and I were talking before the show, and he was like, man, I'm done with class and I got an extra hour in a day and I don't know what I'm going to do. And it's like, it's a shame that as activists, all we have is an hour in a day.
Yeah.
And we so used to doing stuff that we don't even know how to be still, but it's interfering with our emotional, social health. It's interfering with our health. So we shouldn't have to carry this work by ourselves, because we cannot carry the community by ourselves. We need other people to step in. So when we provide opportunities, we need everybody else to get in too, because we can't do it alone. And so
I want to.
Right. Can I add one more thing real fast, Jason? Before you go?
Go ahead.
So y'all know I'm working on this magazine, Greenwood 100, that is going to be published on the 27th. I'm writing other pieces in national publications about what we're getting ready to drop. And so I've had to do a lot of deep research. And so I came across this dissertation about the Klan in Oklahoma. And it was written in the 70s. And this guy did a lot of extensive research about, you know, how the Klan, of course, terrorized Black people. But not only did they do that, if a white person seemed weak and showed any type of empathy towards a Black person, they would be flogged. They would be terrorized, beaten, fired from their jobs. And so white folks that built any type of empathy for Black people, they were literally like forcefully made to be a part of that order of white supremacy, literally forced into that. And so those repercussions, they still live today. So if a white teacher is like, oh, maybe I should teach about the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, or about the Black excellence of Black Wall Street, right? How this community was just so, you know, prominent during its time, and that would empower my Black students. Like the law that happened just last week that was signed literally scares white teachers into obeying, falling in line with that order. Because if they teach it, they could be fired, they could be sued, blacklisted from ever teaching in Oklahoma again. It's literally the same thing over and over and over and over again. So it's like, it's just, we have to have our own. Mm-hmm. That is the only way that we're going to be able to survive in this country and mentally keep our minds right. So,
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the conversation around, there are still masses of us who don't know. And, as Tanisha mentioned that this is a real conversation, I think we need to be real about that. This starts at home. So if we already know that this ain't anything new, teachers were, restricted all throughout the ages about what they could teach. This wasn't just even, post-slavery. This, again, goes back through the ages of time. So what we take in is what we get. And assimilation, I saw in the comments, is something that we do not talk about. Here's the reality. And I want to ask this. We say Black Lives Matter, we're talking about Black folks. Are we tired yet? Progressive thinking, progressive actions, or performative theatrics? Which one? It has to be one of the two. It can't be a gray area, because see, that gray area allows for Blacks to become Republicans and support voter suppression, and then go in rooms where, grant funders are giving out money and can then help dictate what goes into Black communities and what doesn't. That's what these gray spaces create. Is it a promise or is it reality? I don't even think that Black people are willing enough to be real about what's happening, that this is our reality. Every group in America, women, LGBTQ, Muslims, veterans, those who have disabilities, everyone has been attacked under Trump's leadership, right? And even in the Biden administration, it's a message that goes to them that says that it's either going to be you or them. Now, Black people and brown people, we see the same thing. But what choices are we making? Zakiya has been preaching this message. We need to invest in Black. We say this. We talk about Black-owned businesses, let's support. But let's be real. This weekend for Mother's Day, I was with my best friend. We needed to go get something. And there were no lines at the few Black-owned stores in the mall. No lines. But where were all the Black people at? Where were we at? Where were we putting our dollars? Not in those Black-owned businesses. We were putting it back in the same people's hands that oppress us. So Black people, are we tired yet? No. You not tired if you still going out and you buying, Gucci, Chanel. If you still getting Birkin bags and, I want to get a Bentley. How are you, what I'm saying? Can you really have it both ways? And so that's the reality. Like, we know all these things. We know that the Democrats and the Republicans are two wings on the same bird. We know that Christianity plays a role in our oppression. We know that all police officers aren't bad, but there is a culture there that says that they are going to get off if they kill a Black or brown person, because it's easier to convict them. So, like, are we ready to admit that we willingly see these things and we can call a spade? But what are we going to do about that spade? Am I going to stop playing spades and I'm going to build my own game? Or am I going to continue to play spades and lose? That's my question. What do Black people want? What do we want to do? Because I'm quite tired of having these conversations, because we know the truth.
Go ahead, Zakiya. I think I saw you come off mute.
No, I'm just really agreeing, and I hear the sense of frustration, the same frustration that I've been living with myself, for a couple of years, and it is frustrating. I think I have like a heightened sense of frustration too around sometimes, because I see our energy being siphoned off into something that is taking us away from building the necessary power and cohesion that we need to be doing for ourselves. And so for me, can I say this? As my grandma used to say, this. We need to shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
Y'all grandma used to say that. My,
Yep.
my grandma used to say,
Yep.
like, what are we gonna do? Like, so, like Jason said, like I hear the frustration in his voice. We know what the problems are. We know what the issues are. What are we going to do though? You know what I'm saying? How can we galvanize our people again to actually do something for ourselves and to do something about this continued onslaught of just pervasive anti-blackness, and it's increasing and it's getting worse, in my opinion.
But let me ask y'all this, because it's like we say that we know what's happening and we see what's going on, but I question that even when we talk about how even when we talk about the overclassification of like our kids as special needs, right? You know, a lot of parents will be like, okay, well, my child is a little hyper, and this, you know, school doctor or social worker or whatever said that they got ADHD or whatever the case may be. So I'm gonna believe them and I'm gonna put them on these meds, and these meds are ultimately go, you know, kill their brains. Because even when I was a case manager back maybe 15 years ago, I don't know, I worked at a juvenile detention home, and these kids used to line up every day to get their meds to calm them down because they were so-called problem children. And so many of them complained about the effects that the medications would have. And so as I'm getting older, I'm like, when did so many kids when did we have so many special needs kids? Like, this wasn't happening when I was younger.
Exactly.
You know, and so when we think about these systems meant to either, you know,
That part.
chemically alter our brains, whatever the case, just affect us in so many ways. Like, how many parents recognize that these things are happening? You know, and again, in the pharmaceutical industry, in the education industry, and you know, all this stuff, how many people really recognize that we are being killed from the inside out? And so it's like we got to have those conversations to really bring to the forefront how we're being assaulted on all sides so that people understand. But my frustration is, or my question is, that when they figure that out, are we gonna fight? Or like you said, are we gonna get off the pot? And I don't know, because we too kind of like, we too complacent and too conditioned to sit in this oppressive system because it's easy and it's what we're used to.
Mental enslavement. That is mental enslavement. Zakiya, I want to say this just right quick. When Tanisha mentioned, you know, as we were growing up, that changed, right? You know, I'm studying to get my master's in special education. 5.1, you know, percent of the, you know, people who hold PhDs in special education are Black or brown. So then think about even the lower numbers of male educators of color that have a PhD in special education, where disproportionately across the nation, our children are being dumped here. And if you even go, let's just go to the 90s. Let's just, we ain't even gonna go past that. Let's look at the 90s and the numbers of children that battle disabilities, and more of them were physical disabilities. Fast forward that to now, and it's psychological. They are mental disabilities. A lot of this attributes to medicine. Like, it's still capitalizing off of our children. And the reality is, let's go to Malcolm, and then I'm gonna pass the mic to Zakiya. We can't physically fight if we are mentally drained. And so our children don't even have the capacity to outthink what the enemy is doing to them, because they are oppressed and depressed and suppressed off of medicines, society attacking them, politics. You got to worry about if Nene and them gonna get you, if your white neighbors are gonna get you, if the agents, et cetera, so forth. So that's a big part of this conversation. Like, people don't realize that. Zakiya, I'm gonna pass it to you.
No, you said a mouthful, Jason, and I'm glad that you did hop in, because that's the essence of it. The only thing I wanted to point out is that I think there's a big missing piece here. There was an all-out assault on Black thinkers, Black epistemologists, Black-centered scholars, and I'm talking about the Asa Hilliards of the world, African-centered scholarship. Right. I'm talking about, you know, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, you know, like I'm talking about all of these Black scholars who went and found, you know, all kinds of evidence, you know, historically, and overturned the white history. This is the crux of it, y'all. That I was reminding somebody else on the call that was on about critical race theory. I'm like, I know some of us are young, But like y'all don't remember in the 90s when African centered and African history departments and colleges were attacked, and like literally they used Henry Louis Gates. Y'all remember this? How
Yeah,
Henry Louis
yes.
Gates was used against John Henry Clark. So this is repackaged. Like they basically in the 90s, they, you know, the power structure really went after all of these Black scholars. I'm talking about Black PhDs. I ain't talking about people who are, just talking, you know what I mean? And they got a platform and they just talking. I'm talking about skilled thinkers, you know, who have been trained in their institutions. That's the thing. They were trained in their institutions and used it and leveraged it against them to do real work. And I encourage everybody, no matter what you've been taught to hate, that come on with it. No matter what you've been taught to hate about them, you have been taught to hate certain scholars because they were effective and they were correct, and not just their critique, but also their answer. That's why we don't know their work. That's why we're not implementing their work. I'm thinking about Dr. Cambone, who was a revolutionary African American psychologist who diagnosed all of this and also gave us the blueprint for how we change this mentally. So to me, we got to have a Sankofa before we hop out in front talking about we getting ready to do this and we getting ready to do that. Have you studied? Have you studied the master teachers? Yes, Dr. Curry is a contemporary scholar that I would recommend everybody get to know. He's a contemporary scholar, but we don't have to. Dr. Tommy Curry is actually on an island almost on his own, because a lot of these new school scholars are, I hate to say it, but they are completely compromised and they're integrationist in their thinking.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I put in our chat too, you know, we had this knowledge, right? We had this connection. When you look at the power movements, you know, throughout the United States, you know, Kwanzaa is what exposed me to a lot of this knowledge, like in public schools. And I that's what got me interested in the Africana Studies program that Dr. Maxine Sample started here in Georgia, in a couple of the public universities. Shout out to Dr. Sample. I just ran into her, my old professor. I actually got into that program and I saw how they abolished it. And we couldn't even get our degrees in it after we had studied, traveled abroad, did all the research. And they were like, no, like you got too many kids in this program. It's too much knowledge that's being spread. And Kwanzaa uplifts Blackness. And I remember so adamantly in the early 90s, my parents and, you know, their cousins that they grew up with, some who were connected to the Shrine of the Black Madonna here in Atlanta. And it was a big thing spiritually, because it was like, oh, we didn't grow up like that. And, you know, yeah, Black liberation, but if it's going to cause violence and if it's going to cause this, then we need to distance ourselves away from that. And that's not what, you know, the church stands for. And I was like, the church doesn't stand for us celebrating Blackness, like celebrating our gifts and our talents and from whence we came and honoring our ancestors. And I knew then that there was something wrong, because now we are disconnected. And so how do we get that back? This is what I want to ask the three of you. How do we get people to see the power in unity? Everybody else is united. It's almost like ages ago, Black and brown people lost that. And everyone else saw that that was the key to our greatness and our power. And we've just been so disconnected, we haven't been able to get it back. And I'm hoping that our future generations can. But do you guys see that happening? Like, are we able to come back together and really be tired of this age-old fight of simply trying to survive?
I think we got to make it happen. That's got to be a part of what we incorporate as the work.
I want to jump in. So when I think about building power, and based on the conversation that we're having, like the building power piece is in the knowledge that we don't have access to, and the knowledge that has been stolen from us for generations. And so to get back to that unity, we have to have conversations about where we were. And it's, as Zakiya said, that Sankofa piece. you have to know the past in order to move forward in the present. You have to. And so thinking about just today and where we are as a community, I had this thought, like, a lot of us are sleepwalking, right? And it's this delusion that we're fighting for Black lives and we so woke, but really we just sleepwalking. We talking a good game and all this stuff, but we're not for real woke. We just sleepwalking. And so when we talk about building power, to me, and rebuilding that unity, it's in the knowledge, again, that was stolen from us, and the knowledge that we don't have access to, our community hasn't had access to, and we've been really just infiltrated or infused with this white supremacy and this life that, or these norms that we're supposed to live under, this system, or this supremacy system. And it's oppressive and it's brainwashing, and that's how we are so disconnected from what we used to be. So that's just my thinking, Jason, and kind of roundabout answer to your question. Neo, you want to get in? Or
yeah, sure. I'll add in. Like, I like what Jason said in the chat. He said, look up quality Black-owned, operated, or funded schools in your area and donate to them. And that's what we need to do. Like, we have to invest in our own. Like, we have to the government will always shortchange our kids. So we have to go above and beyond to make sure that they get what they need. So,
Neo has a sign right behind him, and the word family that's what stuck out to me. And I just want to throw this out here, and I feel like I might be biting my foot off with doing this, but how are we building our families? Like, when I watch a lot of different documentaries and shows, and in our counterparts' families, they say, listen, you're going to go and you're going to be the person that, does this extensive research in medicine or technology, and you're going to be the moneymaker. So you're going to be able to fund your sister to go out and be an actress or be an artist, or, to go out and be a teacher in, this area, even though they may not make a lot of money. You're going to go out and be the person that uses their gift to do this. Like, are we having these conversations in our families, in our communities, with people that we know? I mean, I'm even challenging myself to say, people that I'm connected to, like, hey, how are you building in your family? Like, maybe we are thinking too big. Maybe these, the 1,000 people that tune into this podcast, every week, are 10 of them willing to connect with Tanisha and say, listen, I just want to speak with you offline about what I can really do to reach more young people in my community, Tulsa. Neo, I want to reach out to you, 10 people that are viewing this or who view this podcast. Like, what can I do to help build in Oklahoma, even if I don't live there? Like, if you are a parent and you tired of the same thing in the educational system, Zakiya, I need to not just follow your podcast, but let me reach out to you offline so I can have real conversations about how can I take what you're saying and what you're doing and do that in my own community. Because here's the reality, what my ancestors have done. If they were doing that and they were successful, I should not still be facing all of these barriers and all of these challenges. I should be able to pick up the phone, which I know I can, and say, hey, brother Neo, I need an article out that's helping to provide this. Zakiya, and I actually need to follow up with you because I do need something. I need to get some resources to help with parents. Like, how can we do that just with this? I wanted to just throw that out there because sometimes I feel like people listen to these shows and then they walk away with, wow, that empowered me. But baby, I don't want you to walk away and just be empowered. I want you to be motivated to go and do it with 5. Let me put on my preacher hat. I want you to go out and connect with 5 people and say, this is how we're going to build. This is how we're going to stop having these kids from getting shot. And you know what? Go to everybody, right? Because my students who parents dance at Blue Flame, who on the street corners, they respect me. My house ain't going to be shut up because I'm going to yeah, the parents that work, yeah.
Gotta check that out.
They know I'm gonna come right up there, and let me tell you, they know I'm gonna come right up there and say, "Hey, y'all think I'm playing, but I'm not. Here go my stuff. I'm writing them the stuff. I'm putting it in here. This is what I need for your child over the summer because we can't lose progress. So I know you ain't gonna check your mail, but I know if Ron, shout out to Ron and Blue, I know if he passes it on to you, right? you gonna get it.
Jason, wait a minute. Let me find out. You know everybody
Jason
that
know
works
Yeah,
at
no, I'm
everybody at the
serious,
strip
'cause
club. That's what I love.
They
you
That's
gotta
got
go.
stock
I'm
at
gonna be
Blue
right in the
Flame.
Walmart in the break room. What's up, y'all? Y'all know Quincy used to manage up here. If it's 6 parents for 30 minutes, it was worth it though, because those 6 parents, they gonna go and get hundreds of other parents that are just like them. So what's up? What we gonna do? Are we gonna build people that are watching this? Y'all in the comments, are y'all gonna be willing to go back in the book that Neo told us? How many people gonna go order the book and then have their own book clubs? Okay, Oprah, we love you, baby. Your audience really want for us anyway. So who creating their own book clubs to start studying these things? Like, come on, y'all. I just want to empower somebody to go out and build and actually build and not just say, oh, they had a good conversation today. Woo, that was good. They were on fire. Yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. God bless y'all for that. I hope he does. But I want y'all to build.
Yeah.
We need to build.
And if I just want to add some encouraging words, you know, for me, it took me to have to I had to unlearn a lot of things, right?
That part.
And relearn. But then I had to also remember that there are a lot of other Black people out there that have not unlearned, you know? And
I'm still unlearning.
yeah, like me
Nothing
too.
in the process.
And, you know, with that being said, like if you go to a Black business and they don't have it all together one day, you know, you don't have to just completely give up on Black businesses, you know, because it's the whole system is still, we're feeling the pressure from all of it, you know, and some days they're going to be on and some days they're going to be off, you know, and you can't just blame them for not having their act together because we're a displaced people, you know, in this society.
So we got about 3.5 minutes left and we got a hard stop. We got hella meetings today. So I just want to give y'all some space to, first of all, I didn't do the public service announcement about share this broadcast out. But more than that, you know, again, as Jason said, we definitely got to start having conversations. We can't just say, oh, that was a cute conversation. I'm going to leave it on my Facebook page and that's going to be that. Like, we got to start talking more. So please share this out and actually start conversations in community and on your social media pages about something that you heard today that may have piqued your interest. But I want to give y'all some time to kind of close out the conversation and give, you know, marching orders. Don't be shy.
I know we on top. Okay, I'll go first. I'll hop in. I'll definitely say let's be intentional. Everybody plays a role. Everyone has a lane that they're in. So don't discount what someone else can do. We need everyone. Like, I'm gonna give you guys a blueprint with my students. You know, some of them have double hearing aids. They may be autistic. They may have ADHD. They may be EBD or EBD and everything else. But they all have a gift, and you have to be intentional about, you know, working with them. You have to be able to work with the masterminds and the misfits. And that's why they call me Professor JBA, because I talk about Professor X. Like, he was able to reach people on every spectrum. And that's what I'm challenging us to do. You know, don't discount people because of how they look or, you know, where they come from or what they believe. Be willing to, you know, do what other people aren't and reach across, you know, political, religious, economic barriers and lines, and let's build together.
I appreciate that. Ditto to everything Jason said. And I love that. The mystics, absolutely. So misunderstood. Join an organization. Everything that Jason has been like talking about, I just love his energy. Join an organization. If you can, join a Pan-African organization, like an organization that's literally doing work unapologetically by and for Black folks, and also understands that in order for Black people to build true Black power, because that also needs to become a part of our lexicon again. Black power. That's what we want. Like, that's what we need is power. And so join an organization that's doing that work, because those organizations have been struggling in the Black Lives Matter era, if you will, while, you know, Black Lives Matter sitting on multi-millions of dollars. The organizations that's been doing real impactful work and is actually a threat, those organizations have been suffering. Yeah. So in addition to your donations to Black schools that are impactful and doing work, because I support that, also support Black Pan-African organizations and Black organizations that's unapologetically doing work in the worst hoods in this country. They exist. You just don't hear about them because they ain't got the budget to hire a comms person. Let's keep it real.
Come on, Neo. What you got? That was a word right there. What you got, Neo?
Zakiya got me all kind of twisted up today. Because that is exactly it. You know, I called a friend a few weeks ago and I was like, man, I don't understand. I'm like Black people, we need comms folks for a lot of these organizations, right? To contact the press, to contact all of these people. And I'm over here looking at me, I'm stretched, you know, so I'm gonna have to go back to Jason and say, like, look, we need all hands on deck. Like, you know, if you're truly for the movement, you need to get involved. You need to do something. If you have a skill set, you know, offer it to your own community. I started growing. The Black Wall Street Times only became possible because I started focusing on my people. Not that I alienated everybody else's kids. You know, I still check on them and, you know, wish them good luck at their meets and stuff. But when I started focusing on my people, that's when I felt like my purpose in life had become aligned, you know. So focus on us. We need more hands on deck.
Yeah, and I just want to say real quick, start questioning shit. Like a lot of times when you feel like something ain't right, it's probably not right. And I think that when you start questioning and doing that exploration of what you think is right or what you think is wrong is where the education starts and how the knowledge is built. And then don't underestimate your ability and capacity to be an educator, a mentor, a leader, an activist, because we need more of those people. And so find your lane, find what you're interested in and what you don't mess with. And then that's how we build power at a grassroots level. Also, we having house meetings at the Blue Flame. Jason go get us free drinks. You know, he got stock in the club. We gonna have a good time. We go see some, you know, when it's up.
Blue Flame still, listen, y'all, I'm so sorry. This is such a distraction. But the Blue Flame food, y'all, this shout out to Doug Hyde. And I know now a lot of
down at the
man.
It is right next to it's near our old high school. And they have the best food. I'm not gonna lie. They shout out to the Blue Flame. Everybody talks about Magic City,
in 2 weeks.
but yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. I might be telling too much. I help my.
It go down at the Flame. All right, y'all.
We got another call to go to.
Right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll catch y'all next Monday for another TDRS. Until then, do the work and